Hello and greetings there, everyone. It is GleeCon coming at you again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. I thank everybody so much for watching and tuning in, and we're going to continue our journey through all things lore related. We have been catching ourselves up to World of Warcraft Classic. We are almost there. On our last episode, we looked at one of the manga Warcraft Legends. We saw a story of the Bloodsail Buccaneers, a little backstory into who they are and potential conflict that they have with the Deathiest Brotherhood. We've also been reading Cycle of Hatred and catching up Chronicles, and we're getting close with those. But we also have our side journey through all the things errata that we've been doing on Weird and Obscure, and that has us in the World of Warcraft role-playing game, which is revamping the Warcraft role-playing game, which we already covered all of those materials. So now we're doing a revamping of the book. I believe there was one called Lands of Conflict that focused more than anything else on how to make Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition into a RTS, how to control troops en masse. And I don't know if that's what they're going to still do this, but this is Lands of Mystery, and I think it corresponds to that book. So we're going to see what we have here. So stay a while and listen. We'll probably do at least one part of this book, and we'll find out together right now. But as you see, we have a centaur, a quillbore, a satyr. Maybe that is a, what are they called? Harpy. So it would be interesting if we had these four as playable races. Either way, it's a cool picture. Okay, and that's the back cover, which we've seen a bunch of times, where we have a Tauren druid healer, and that is actually the playing piece from the World of Warcraft board game, which is one of the best board games of all time. I love it. I can't stress enough, and I didn't see that listed anywhere on old Excariot or whatever his name is, Acariot, his list of things, but that would be, we perhaps in the far future will cover that game because it is really cool. And me and my son, and to a lesser degree my wife, my youngest son, we are World of Warcraft players, but my other three children are not, and they're older. But all of us, that board game brought the family together for years. We played it so many times. All of the kids just loved it. It was an event. One session might take the evenings for a whole weekend. Good memories. All right, so what do we have here? Actually, let's look back at these credits. This is a slightly different site. This is an Internet Archive site, basic archive.org. It's pretty good, but they don't have everything. But when they do, it's pretty good quality. I do see that they're thanking Gary Gygax, yeah, sure, and Chris Metzen. So the people that are behind the two things that prop up this game. So this one has 9 chapters. So we might be breaking it down into 9 unless some of them are just incredibly short. But if you look, it's broken down by region: Northern, Central, and Southern Kalimdor, the South Seas, Northrend. So they do like they did in Warcraft role-playing game, where we're staying away from the Eastern Kingdoms for some reason. Various civilizations, different adventures, organizations, including the Bloodsail Buccaneers that we just read about, and then some new prestige classes at the end. So cool. All right, we're going to read the introduction this time, or actually, no, we're not. We'll read this little flavor text. To His Highness King Magni Bronzebeard, rightful sovereign of Ironforge and Dun Morog, and Grand Explorer of the Guild. To High Explorer Tomley McGillis, and all august members of the Excursion Council. You know what? They did this on that one other book where they wrote from the perspective of Brann Bronzebeard. And let's find out. We'll take our time, and we will break it down by chapter so that we can read some of this. Well, I'm done. After months of slogging through swamps, plodding across deserts, slinking through forests, swimming through and beneath seas, and trudging across icy wastelands, I finished the task you set before me back in the weary boots. Oh, that must be an inn. I had a few, as you might recall, and so wasn't in the clearest state of mind when you asked if I would undertake this journey, especially considering I had just returned from my travels in the eastern lands that very day. Ah, we dwarves are crafty. The western lands are interesting, perhaps more so than the lands of the east, for I knew very little about the west before striking out on this expedition. Kalimdor, the islands of the South Seas, and Northrend were realms of mystery to me, and despite the secrets I uncovered, these regions retain a good many puzzles yet. Thus, I have entitled this volume Lands of Mystery, which accurately captures the feel of these western lands. What I found is ferociously interesting, but disconcerting for our plans. The orcs, tauren, and trolls of the Horde are firmly established on Kalimdor, and boil my beard, they could be staunch allies against the Scourge and the Burning Legion. They certainly have every reason to hate the demons and the undead, yet instead of working with them, the Alliance forces on Kalimdor, and the rest of the world for that matter, squabble with the Horde over petty conflicts, mostly for tradition's sake. I say squabble, but the situation is escalating toward outright war again, my friends. I can't think of anything the Scourge and the Legion would like better than to watch the mortal races chop each other to bits so they can inherit whatever's left when we're done. We need diplomacy and handshakes, Magni, not swords and guns. The Western lands hold other potential allies as well. The most obvious are the Night Elves. However, they face their own problems, both internal and external. Other forces also exist, but instinct in the fact that they tried to kill me tells me they'll prove hostile to our cause. Centaur, trolls, Naga, the world is full of people who want to eat your liver, and I fear we don't have enough strong dwarves to stand against them. These are dark times, my friends. Or at least they're interesting times, too. I suppose I should summarize the contents of this volume. That way you can zip right to the most interesting bits, though obviously since I wrote it, it's all interesting. Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm going to at least read this introduction. In chapters 1 through 5, I recount my travels through northern, central, and southern Kalimdor, then through the South Seas, and finally up into Northrend. I provide estimates which range from wild guesses to accurate statements backed by official records of the populations in each of the regions within these areas, as well as the region's resources, rulers, settlements, and the like. I should point out that the language section of each region entry lists the region's most prominent language first, and the others follow in alphabetical order. Scattered throughout these chapters are scraps of information that I picked up from some of the denizens in the region. These are journal excerpts, transcripts of conversations, and the like, so if you don't believe me, believe the natives. Speaking of natives, also scattered throughout these chapters are descriptions of some especially interested denizens. Cultures and civilizations fascinate me, so chapter 6 explores 4 of the most intriguing civilizations in the Western lands: the Blue Dragonflight, Magnetar, Murlocs, and Nerubians. I heard all sorts of adventure tales in my travels. I described 3 of the most exciting in chapter 7. If any young bucks would care to test the truth of these rumors, be my guest. I may even do so myself someday. Chapter 8 describes some of the organizations I encountered on my travels: the Bloodsail Buccaneers, the Burning Blade, the Druids of the Fang, and the Damnable Scourge. Know thy enemy. Finally, Chapter 9 includes various miscellanies that I thought would interest you. What does it take to be a techno-mage? How do people survive in the north? If you challenge a goblin in XK-77 steam armor to a duel, what are you up against? The answers are here. A closing thought. I've now traveled the whole of the world. I'm possibly the only and certainly the handsomest individual who has done so in all of history. One might imagine then that the thought of continuing my career as an explorer, an archaeologist, an adventurer, an anthropologist suddenly holds little interest. What can I see, a hypothetical questioner might wonder, that I haven't seen before? What else is there? Won't the rest of my life be a disappointment, as I have already accomplished this greatest of exploratory feats? To this I say, well, hypothetical questioner, why don't you go off and squirt some lemon juice up your kilt? Trying to make me feel bad like that. If there's one thing I learned in my travels to the lands of mystery, it's that the world holds innumerable wonders. My expedition turned up at least as many questions as it answered, and I'm eager to return to the wilds to seek more answers, and the best part about the questions I'll answer is that they'll lead to more questions. The world brims with possibilities and the unknown, and I will always be there to partake. That's just Azeroth. There are other worlds than this. What's next for me, Magni? Brann Bronzebeard. Alright, maps. I can hear the complaints on the message board. Why didn't they include maps for each of the regions? They could have just taken them from the World of Warcraft computer game. The answer is there's only so much room in the book, and it seems silly to fill them with maps that people can find online. That makes sense. Web bonuses. Apparently, people like writing about Warcraft because they had to cut huge chunks out of this book to make everything fit. Hopefully, they'll make the chopped up sections available for free at www.warcraftrpg.com. So if you're interested in finding anything, if they ever add more content, because this one does seem written in a narrative form, you might be able to find www.warcraft. Actually, you know what? Hey, we're going to wrap this up because they're going to start chapter 1. I'm not going to include chapter 1 on this, but let's look that up. www.warcraftrpg.com. Let's find out together if it exists. Why not? You know? Okay. That jumped me to worldofdarkness.com. Weird. I wonder if that's... It is. It's now called World of Darkness. Okay, so it is. It looks like it's defunct. Well, it has rebranded itself. So let's look at these products here. The World of Darkness. It looks like it's focused on what we have here. Join our celebrations every day in October. So definitely they're keeping this up to date. Which Vampire Masquerade clan are you? You can do a quiz. Vampire the Masquerade Nexus Early Access. Okay, so I'm not accepting any cookies from them, but yeah, I can't even. I'm just looking for any dates or anything. I don't want that. But now I can actually. Okay, so this looks like their face. This website has dove in and committed itself to its Vampire Masquerade board game, card game. Okay. Yeah, so they have rebranded and completely dumped themselves into Werewolf as well. Werewolf the Apocalypse, Hunter. I don't see any. I guess waiting. I mean, it's been 20 years, so I wonder if you can search this. No, you can't. Yeah, there's nothing. All right, so that is an answer to that. Can you find any ripped up chunks? Not anymore, if they ever existed, because the company decided to just ditch their association with Warcraft, and they've dove all into Vampire Masquerade, Hunter, all that stuff. I've never played these games. I have heard of them. There was a time period back in the 90s when I played a lot of Magic cards, Magic the Gathering, when I also branched out for a while and played, I think it was a card game based on Werewolf the Apocalypse, and they had a one that was similar for Vampire, and they had a RPG game setting. And I actually did buy a couple of source materials, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm not like dunking on this or anything, but it is a shame that they just scrapped that. And it might be a licensing thing. They might have just had to ditch it because it's an expensive affiliation to maintain, probably. So, depending on how that goes, and if Blizzard wasn't valuing its World of Warcraft archive, for the Dungeons and Dragons, especially for defunct Dungeons and Dragons editions that no one plays anymore, that wasn't profitable or worth the time. I could see that. And Dungeons and Dragons, I do think went through a lull, especially during fourth edition, the end of third edition there. Whereas now, I think it's having a resurgence with things like Stranger Things making it popular. Again, you see tons of cool items out there, but there was definitely a dark period where I could see Blizzard like, no. And now with the way everything's set up with World of Warcraft, I think they are focusing on keeping that brand going just by making a good quality game and not necessarily so much of the side content when they now have other things under their umbrella like Call of Duty and Overwatch that are League of Legends that are bringing in revenue from other sources that although their eggs don't have to be in the World of Warcraft basket, and you still have some literature, some manga, some comics that come out. All right, thank you everyone so much for watching and for listening as we just go down the rabbit hole with whatever we find. I appreciate you as always. Tune in next time for another episode of Lore of Warcraft because this one in the pipe 5x5.